Good evening. Good evening. It's Charlie Rankin. And it is a little after 7 o'clock. In fact, it's 7:20 p.m. And we are having some challenges with technology, but we got those sorted out and we are online. Now, we meant to come online a few minutes ago at 7 p.m. for our fundraising chat or webinar. So if I missed you or if you had to sign off, I totally understand. And we'll post a little bit about the link to this webinar online. Well, my name is Charlie Rankin. I'm in our home office in St. Augustine, Florida. And here in St. Augustine, my wife and I, Courtney, we run a small business called FloridaFundraiser.com. We also have another website called School Solutions Global. Now, what we do at FloridaFundraiser.com is we help and support schools, teachers, and groups that need to raise money. And we present an option that is a short, no-risk fundraiser that is meant to take the whole thing off your plate and give you more time back in your day so you have time to do other things that are important to you. So let's take a look at FloridaFundraiser.com together so that you can see what we have online. So here's FloridaFundraiser.com. It's there available for you on the site now. A lot of times you're going to come here and you're going to want to schedule a call. Usually scheduling a call is the first step in getting involved with us at FloridaFundraiser.com. When you come to schedule a call, it goes straight to my calendar and you can pick the day that you'd like to have the call. You can scroll through to see times I'm available and you can grab a time. And if the time's not there, then that little block of time is already gobbled up for my schedule. So that's what that button does. But other than that, the other one is just go ahead and schedule a fundraiser. But let's take a little deeper dive. And I wanted to show you something that sets us a little bit apart from the other folks in fundraising. And a lot of times in fundraising, the most commonly asked question is, what do you have? And also the second most common question is, what do you charge? How much of our profit is Florida Fundraiser going to take? But I wanted to challenge you to think for a moment about a different question to ask first. And that is, what is the process going to look like when we do the fundraiser? And so I always try to start with our fundraising process. And I've kind of narrowed it down to a 3-step process. And step one is we always want to start with why. Why are we starting this project? What is the money going to be for? And making sure that the group leader, whether that's the school principal or the cheer coach or the band director, theater leader, the principal can communicate why their organization needs to raise money. Now, making sure that the students and the stakeholders, which is oftentimes also the parents, making sure that those folks understand how the results of the fundraiser will impact them and that they're also open and willing to participate. And then we want to be able to paint a picture of the problem that the fundraiser will solve so that this way the supporter knows the difference that their contribution is going to make. I really believe that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So it isn't about the donation button or the popcorn or the cheesecakes. It's really about what problem does the funding solve that helps move your program forward or it gives a stronger and better opportunity to students. Now, step 2 is something that I've been working on for a number of years, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called the soft launch. The soft launch is going to be kind of the secret step in the recipe. The soft launch is going to be 2 to 3 days before you actually start the fundraiser. If the fundraiser is going to start on a Thursday, your best idea is to start your soft launch on Monday or Tuesday. This is when you start getting the students ready. You take a few days to introduce the campaign. You start painting the picture of what the funding will do for the program. And you want to inspire them. A lot of times today, we're not going to be able to require them. So it's a lot of inspiration and motivation. One of the best steps you can do is right here. It's called the students complete their supporters list. Announce that the early bird prize is going to be available for students who raise money by the end of the kickoff. So imagine this. Imagine that you start your soft launch 2 days before the kickoff, and they have 48 hours to raise money, because we actually tell them that the fundraiser isn't starting for 48 hours. We give them a 48-hour head start. And we give them a dare, or a double dog dare, or a triple dog dare to raise $100 by midnight of the kickoff. And what's very exciting to see happen is when a group will hit 100% of their fundraising goal on day one, because of everybody that participated in the early bird program. Now, if you're going to offer the early bird program, you do have to follow through and give out an early bird reward. It can be a lot of things. It can be something that's tangible. It could be a chance at a drawing. Something that's really popular that I've seen used successfully with band programs is, for every student that raises enough money to pay off their obligation for the season, we will pick a name to give a refund back to that family, where they get a credit for their obligation, or they get it matched. They get their obligation matched towards a trip that's happening that year. So here's how that would play out. If you have a $350 band fee, in Florida, they call that a fair share payment in a lot of programs. If a child by the night of the fundraiser happens to raise $350 because of support from family and friends, that child will be entered into a drawing. Now, what we often see in one program here locally is that if 20 students hit that goal, then the band program would draw one name. And in this case, they gave that family a rebate for the amount that they had raised. But I might recommend that you just match it, and you give that family another $350 toward a future expense in the program. So the soft launch is critical, and don't underestimate when it talks about the supporters list. It might be a good time for me to just jump over to the supporters list real quick and show you what in the world I mean by the supporters list. So what is the supporters list? Well, this is the supporters list. It's a worksheet that has a little grid on it. Now, the goal here is to give this out 2 days before the kickoff, or 3 days during the soft launch. You give out the supporters list before the kickoff. Again, 24, 48, 72 hours before the kickoff. This is probably the hardest step. You have to give them, most fundraisers today have some kind of a campaign ID. I know the ones that I work with have a campaign ID. So I've put a spot here for the campaign ID. I have a video there that can play that talks about who a supporter is. It gives the student a little glimpse into this idea of aunts and uncles and grandparents and people that like you or are supposed to like you. And this video plays, and it's age appropriate for middle school through, actually elementary school through high school. Our platform, InstaRaise, is the platform that I represent. Now, we do have an app, and so we want our families and our students to download the InstaRaise app. And then the third step in the supporters list process is to register and add contacts. Now, this is the part that's hard today about fundraising. When I was a beginning teacher, it was early 2000s, and what was hard back then was giving out frozen cookie dough. We don't have to do that as much now, but this step, the supporters list step, this is the difference maker in today's fundraising. Now, I'm going to just check to see if I have audio connected. So I'm going to unshare, and then I'm going to come back in here and reshare. and I want to share audio tab. So it does have the audio. So let's go ahead and just play the supporters video. So this is my supporters video. This is what we play 2 days before the fundraiser. So take a look at the supporters list video.
The first step to having a great fundraising campaign is something called the supporters list. The supporters list is a worksheet that your teacher or coach is going to give you today. When you get home tonight, work with mom or dad to fill out your supporters list. So who is a supporter and what are we doing? Well, a supporter is an adult, a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, or an uncle, an adult that likes you or is supposed to like you. So starting tonight, you're going to write down all of these people's names. You'll need to write down a current cell phone number and an up-to-date email address. Your goal is to have 20 names written down on your supporters list with their phone number and their email address. The main problem that you're probably going to run into is that you won't have these people's email and phone number. So I would suggest that you just text them and ask them to text it back to you. We're going to give you 24 hours to fill out your supporters list and bring it back to your teacher. Guys, that's the first step that we need to take to have an amazing and awesome fundraising campaign. If you'll take a closer look at your supporters list, you can go ahead and get started tonight by doing step 2. You can go to instaraise.com and register using your campaign ID. And who knows, you might accidentally raise some money before tomorrow. Check out the short.
So guys, there's the whole secret right there, is getting the students engaged before the campaign starts to see if we can have them raise some money before the day of the kickoff. So it's really just a clever way to give them some grace and to kind of let them know that it's okay if I don't raise all the money today, but I do need to raise some money before we start the kickoff. So I've had a lot of success, and I've seen some sponsors really do well by using that supporters list and, you know, telling them that they might raise money by accident by the date of the kickoff. Now, here's something that you might not have thought of, especially in the world of email-based fundraisers and texting-based fundraisers. And why don't we stop measuring how much they've raised and start rewarding how many people they have asked? Because the thing that you're fixated on, we're fixated on how much will we raise or how much profit will we keep. But the trick is, if you can find a fundraising partner that will help you make the asking easier, who can help you solve the asking problem? So the real problem that we're trying to solve is the asking problem, and finding the right fundraising partner to help you solve the asking problem is what's going to long-term cure any fundraising fatigue that you have. So I love this photograph that a teacher sent over. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit here. The teacher had made thermometers for how many email addresses each individual class had brought in for the fundraiser. So the thermometers were not measuring how much money was raised. The thermometers were measuring how many email addresses each student brought in. So if we can find a way to get creative and solve the asking problem, we have a real shot at solving the fundraising problem. Now, we found a way to do this recently with a creative approach to just building a more creative donation campaign. So let me show you the donation campaign that started recently for Horizon High School. Now, Horizon High School is in Orlando, Florida. It's led by a good friend of mine. Her name is Charlene Cannon. Now, so they started about a week and a half ago, and they're at $26,000 raised right now. They are doing a donation-only option, Here's something that we did to be creative. The name of the high school is Horizon. And so what we decided to do was we spelled out the word Horizon on their campaign page. And each student is going to be able to have these letters sponsored by people in their family. So when a child has a page sponsored, it ends up looking a little bit different. When somebody sponsors the H or the O or the Z, whatever letter gets sponsored, that donor's name actually ends up like covering up that particular letter. And so it gets grayed out and it ends up saying, this page was sponsored by. So I'm going to see if I can find a page that has a couple letters sponsored, and I'll show you a child, like a campaign page where there's some letters that have been sponsored. So here's an example of what I was talking about. So here we are with this H has been sponsored by Grandpops, and the O has also been sponsored by Grandpops. And so with one sponsor, this student got 2 letters covered. And it shows you there with that little banner that Grandpops sponsored the H and the O and gave $100 to support this student. Now, something that I was able to do for the teacher was to provide a report. Just a few days ago, I provided a report to the teacher to show how many of each letter had been paid for. And so I'll show you what kind of reporting we provided. And again, just looking at fundraising just a little differently than just what we've done in the past. Let me just change my screen share to be able to share this form with you just a second. So I'm going to change over to a PDF that I've made. And so here's the PDF. So here on the PDF, I'm now sharing a different screen. We can see that Horizon High School had 52 H's sponsored, 40 O's sponsored, 13 R's, 15 I's, 13 N's, 13 Z's, and 10 N's. And all of those are worth $50 each. And then it goes through and it even has the ability to show how many the students, I'm not going to show that right now, but it'll show the students and how many letters each student has so far in the sponsoring of the word Horizon. I've used this with a football team recently. I've used this with a couple band programs recently. And this is a great way to get creative about how to have a donor give a donation. To take that just in a slight modification on that, I had a group that was doing a DC trip. And see if I can grab that one real quick. So this was a 5th grade DC trip. And we did a similar approach. And I want to just show you how we used creative donation buttons to help them give the donor a little more context. So here we were talking about the DC trip. And you can see that we used a few pictures of groups in DC, but we had different tiers of sponsorship where they could be a loyal representative. They could sponsor a day on the trip. They could sponsor a night at the hotel. They could sponsor my ride on the bus. They could sponsor my day at the Jefferson Memorial, or they could sponsor the day at the Smithsonian, or they can sponsor a visit to the Capitol building. And so you're telling the donor a little more direction on what that contribution is going to do. And so I just think that just thinking a little differently, it gives a little more skin to the donation. And so I just wanted to go over that as well. So going to jump back. I'm going to actually grab a presentation that I made recently, and I thought we could share this presentation here online with you. So let me just maximize my presentation screen here. And let's see. So That is probably good enough if I just do it like that. I could pull this down here. And if I do this and make this full screen, I think that will work. Great. Now, me-conomics. Now, what in the world do I mean by me-conomics? Well, I actually mean music education economics, okay? The ME stands for music education. So we're going to talk, and we're right at 7:40 right now. And I do see there's two people in the room, I don't know, just for fun, if you guys can make a comment of some sort, the two folks that I see that are in the room, I'd love to see if you make a comment, if it ends up coming up here. So let's see if I say, please, hi, thanks for joining. I'm going to see, we can show that online here. So go ahead. I don't know who the two folks are. If you'll say hello, tell us where you're from, and give us a little shout out. That would make me so happy. All right. We had Crystal. Crystal, I'm glad you're here. You made me so happy. I appreciate you hopping on tonight. If you have a question, just let us know. Brian from Missouri, we are coast to coast because I'm over in St. Augustine, Florida. So great to have you, Brian. And we had Crystal from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Great. We're making things happen tonight. Now, thanks so much for hopping on. What I want to do later on, maybe you guys can email me. I do have some coffee that I can send out. Let me unshare this real quick. So one of the fundraisers I represent is Lucky Goat Coffee, and it's a great coffee that's brewed here in in Tallahassee, Florida. It's brewed in Tallahassee. I'm one of their fundraising reps. I'm actually the only fundraising rep for Lucky Goat Coffee. And this coffee, it's kind of gone viral here in Florida, and they're building cafes all throughout the Southeast. One just opened in Orlando 2 weeks ago. This is a great coffee fundraiser. And what I love about it, they don't roast the coffee beans until after your fundraiser is over. So by the time this makes it to your school, it's only been about 7 days since the coffee was roasted. So maybe we can get this shared out to some folks. We got some other comments coming in now. We have Sharon that is online. Hey, Sharon, glad you're here. We've got Leanne from Middleburg, Pennsylvania. There's a Middleburg here in near me in Florida, Leanne. Middleburg over here, it's very small. I'm not sure what Middleburg is like where you are. But all right. So let's get back into the me-conomics. So I made this presentation up for undergraduate music education majors, and I've had the chance to present this a few times at colleges in different parts of the country. But we're going to go over it today together. All right, so we'll make this bigger. All right, me-conomics. How much money do you need, and where does the money come from? Okay, now let's see. Go ahead and scan the QR code. Now, I actually didn't bring my phone in here with me. But if you'll scan the QR code, this actually shows you something that I do when I work with a group. Now, if you'll scan the QR, depending on what kind of phone you have, your texting app should open right up. And it should have the ability where it's like a pre-written text, almost like you can fill in some blanks. Now, if it looks like you're sitting in an undergraduate class and it's kind of worded that way, that's because the last time I presented this, I was at the University of South Florida, and I was presenting to the undergrad music ed majors. But that does send a text directly to my business phone number. It lets us meet. And guys, this is what I do with groups when it's time to start the fundraiser. I have a QR code just like this. They scan the QR code, and we do a 5-minute texting contest to have them just send those messages out to friends and family just as quickly as we can. And then we go on to a few other steps in the fundraiser. Now, I'm not going to play this whole video right now because of time, but this was about being an impact maker. And so that video had a little bit more of a relevance during that undergrad presentation. But when we think about fundraising, what do we want to be? What do we want to do? And what do we want to have? The be, the do, the haves. Now, this would be the vision of the band director, chorus director, the vision of the leader of the group. It's okay if it's the vision of the boosters, but the vision of the boosters is really not the engine that's really going to move this program forward. What we're really talking about is the vision of the teacher or primary leader. But the B is, how would others describe you and your students? Do understanding your calendar and what you say yes to, and the things you want to have would be the resources and the tools that are available to you. And so many times I'll ask undergrads, which do you want to come first? Your vision or your budget? Does your vision determine the budget, or does your budget put a cap or a ceiling on your vision? Maybe we have a director with this great vision, but they don't have the resources to make their vision happen. So these are kind of philosophy, higher level questions that we think about when it comes to great fundraising. I often tell folks to think about fundraising budgeting and how much money you need as a baseball diamond. I want you to think about a single. You would raise 25% of your annual budget if you hit a single. If you hit a double on a fundraiser, you would raise 50% of your annual budget on a double. A fundraiser that hits a triple, we would bring in 75% of your annual budget. And a fundraiser that hits a home run, one campaign where we raise 100% of your budget. And then a grand slam would be that we actually overshoot your target for the year, and you end up raising a little bit more than you're anticipating. I also want folks to think through what happens if they get into a situation where they have a hurricane, or they have a tornado, or they have fires in their community, and they only end up raising a percentage of their forecast budget. What do we do then? How do we cope, and how do we pivot if we have some sort of, I don't know, a pandemic or something going on that we don't hit that fundraising goal that year? If you think through these ahead of time, you don't have to be so stressed out if you have a budgeting shortfall, because we've been thinking about what would happen ahead of time. Now, your attitude about fundraising is super critical. So we're going to make sure that I have the audio set up to play this video. And this is a dynamic teacher in the Tampa area. Her name is Heather. So let's hear from Heather.
Most of the time we take class time to do instruction and work.
Let's see if I can get this to play.
And content and curriculum and all of that.
All right, well, it's buffering a little more than I want it to buffer. And so we'll try to get this out to you in another way.
But as you know, this program doesn't just happen on its own. We have a lot of people helping to support it. Our boosters help to support it. Your families help to support it. It's really, really important that we have all, I want everybody paying attention. I don't want you filling out your form right now. Thank you. It's really important that you understand that we have to invest some time into helping getting some financial.
All right. Well, that's a little too much buffering for me. So I'm going to kind of pause that. Heather does a great job of explaining the why to her students, and we can get that video in another format so we can get a little better read on it. But guys, the best results in fundraising occur when the CEO is the person leading the campaign. The reason I put this here is because the person leading this moment wasn't me, it wasn't the fundraising guy, and it wasn't a band parent. It was the directors of the program that were giving the charge to the students that this is important, this is for real. And whenever I see that the band director kind of steps down and somebody else is going to take the reins to introduce the fundraiser, I just kind of cringe a little bit, because we just lost 20% of what we're going to raise when that happens. So please take that slide to really to heart, that this is important to effective fundraising. Okay, now we're going to go on.
Most of the time,
So we're going to look at the details right now. Now, we may not have noticed, but we have been going through a couple letters in an acronym. And the first letter was the word need. So we, on the first slide, we did have the acronym NEED, or the letter NEED there, the letter N for the word need. Then after that, this is the letter A for attitude. And now we're going to the letter D for details. So far we've covered an N, we've covered an A, and we've covered a D. So we're on the details. A lot of information on this slide. When it comes to fundraising, the band director or the leader of the group needs to make some decisions about who decides. And oftentimes, as parents, we decide who decides. So here's a common thing that will come up. A lot of people will ask the students what product they want to use in the fundraiser. And then they get 7 different answers. And then they maybe have the students vote. But what you don't realize that you've done is that means that you're not going to choose 6 of the answers that the kids put out there. And so because you didn't choose my suggestion for the fundraiser, I'm not going to do the one that you picked. And this happens so many times that we did that one because the kids thought it would sell the best. Well, the truth is that there isn't going to be a thing that's going to sell the best, because the thing isn't the problem. As I said a little while ago, it's solving the asking problem that is the problem, and getting more kids asking. Sometimes we'll have a situation where Google is giving you suggestions on what to fundraise with, or a program across town did an onion fundraiser and they raised $53,000 on onions. So we think, oh, I guess it's got to be onions. And the trick is, it wasn't the batteries, and it wasn't the onions, and it wasn't the coffee. It was that teacher probably had a clear goal, and they got the kids asking. Other things to think about: does your program charge a fee? Maybe a financial obligation? Should students pay a fair share to help offset the budget? I was on a Facebook group today, and there were comments that a booster group can't actually fundraise and then divvy up the money into individual accounts. Like, there's a conflict there with some of the bylaws and nonprofit organizations. So you have to be careful there. And what do you do when they're fundraising for their own account? I think you actually create a problem when you do that. When you let everybody fundraise for their own account, you accidentally create a me fundraiser. This fundraiser is for me, but we don't spend money in schools on things that are for individual children. We tend to spend money in schools that are for masses of children. I call it we money. We need money for the playground or for the buses for a performance. Even a tuba that might be handed to a child, it impacts the band, not just the child holding the tuba. And when we fixate on everybody raising for individual accounts, you accidentally create, well, I've raised my $350, tap, I'm done, I'm out. But that doesn't account for the child that can't raise $350 because of their situation. And so now we're left with a deficit. And also we're left with a child feeling maybe like they didn't contribute as much because they couldn't raise that. So be real careful about fair shares and flat fees. If you don't have those set up currently, it's okay to just fundraise for the group goal. That's just from experience. How many fundraisers will we need? Well, that's a great one. What if our budget is a little bit like our behavior with credit cards? What if we're spending more than we're bringing in? If we're spending more than we're making, we're going to end up upside down. We're going to end up in the hole. And I guess you have to kind of just have a real heart to heart with your person making the decisions about what to buy, and let them know where we are on income and revenue. And we just can't be unwise and spend more than we're making. There's been programs where the next director took the job. It was, $3, $5, $10,000 in debt because instruments were being ordered, but there wasn't money to pay those bills. And the myth buster is, you can't do a fundraiser every month and actually get 10 times the results. I think you're actually going to have the same results as if you just did 2 fundraisers a year as opposed to 10 fundraisers a year. I don't think you'll have different results. And all you're actually going to do is just be more tired and still not have much money. And now you've just exhausted all your volunteers and you've gone to the well so many times that it's just frustrating everybody. So don't reevaluate if you're doing a fundraiser every month. Now, if you have Carnegie Hall coming up, it can feel like you need a fundraiser every month. I understand that. And you do have to plan ahead, and maybe you do different types of fundraisers if you are having, to bring in, 250,000, 500,000 within a short period of time. You do have to get quite creative to do those big trips. Okay, we're still on the details. When should we start? Okay, well, in Florida, start before the first hurricane. So if you're in other parts of the country, start as close to Labor Day or as close to the first day of school as you can. What's happened here in Florida, especially in the recent years, if we start too much into October, you're very likely to have a hurricane either in the beginning, the middle, or the end, or all of the above of your fundraiser. So ask your principal if you can be early on the calendar so that you get ahead of the pack. The first 9 weeks is absolutely the strongest season for fundraising. Just to share a little bit of information, like in the first 9 weeks, I'll raise in one day the same amount of money that I raise in the entire month of January. So between, August 1 and October 1, we'll raise about $1 million here in Florida for bands during, August 1 to October 1. But in the month of January, in February together, I'm happy to raise $250,000 during those 2 months. So just know that starting while the energy is high is a great idea. Don't ever start your fundraiser at the downside of your energy. So don't start it as they're packing up the marching band instruments to put the season away. Don't start it when the slope of energy is declining. That's the wrong time to fundraise. You want to start the fundraiser as the energy is starting to crest and come up, or even just kind of come off the ground. That way you capture that motivation, that energy, that excitement about the new program with the fundraiser. Now, should you hire a fundraising company, and what is trending in fundraising? Well, what is trending in fundraising? Always trending with me is having a clear fundraising goal. That trumps any new product, any new gimmick in fundraising. And then doing the supporters list and focusing on solving the asking problem. If I could communicate and help you solve the asking problem, that's what would be trending in fundraising. Online fundraising is really trending right now. Very rarely do I use the paper catalogs, and very rarely do I use the carbon copy order forms anymore. I do have them available, and I'm not afraid to use them if the sale is not coming off the ground like it should be. But most everything now is moved online. I use a platform called InstaRaise for my donations and for my products, like the coffee that I showed you. I use a platform called Chipley for my apparel. I also now will start using InstaRaise for my apparel. I've used Shopify for apparel. I've built Shopify stores for programs. I've built Chipley stores for programs. I also use Weebly and Square online. I guess I buy URLs like a hobby. I guess I own a couple different URLs. Ship to home products. Gosh, ship to home products. So right here, let me get where you can kind of see the screen and me. So right here, this is a ship to home product. This is a popcorn product. It's made by Pop and Pop. This is 1 gallon. of popcorn. It says it weighs 9.5 ounces. They market it as a gallon, so I'm assuming this is a gallon. It's got a pretty good calorie count on it, by the way, so you don't have to feel too guilty if you sit there and eat a little bit of this. But this now, guys, is going to be shipped to home. And so this will never show up in the band room, the chorus room. It never shows up on campus. If you want to do yourself a favor, switch to ship to home. Now, here's a baby version of the popcorn. This is a little tiny version of that same bag of popcorn. And what you have here is your old school, like 2-week sale where the students carry a carrier. Oh, it just broke. They carry a carrier around. And that's probably part of the reason that carriers can be tricky, because it's made of cardboard and it can pop just like mine just did. But inside this carrier are bags of popcorn. And so these bags of popcorn, the students have 30 bags of popcorn, and they sell these to peers, and then they turn the money in after the campaign. That's another option. Also, the coffee. Something like the coffee could be an option. Coffee right now, my coffee is shipped to school. I am working on converting the popcorn to ship to school. I even found these soft baked cookies. Now, if you remember growing up in the time that I grew up, there were these soft baked cookies that were so good. And this cookie is a lot like that soft baked cookie. This is, it says it's a peanut butter with real Reese's peanut butter. And like this kind of cookie, it's not going to crack and like crumble. It's so soft. And so those are also available where it's like a peer. They can sell it to their friend for a couple of dollars. So those are all great fundraising options. I went over some of the donation fundraising options a little earlier in the webinar. All right. We're at 8 p.m. right now. I'm going to kind of just start to wrap it up. Should you hire a fundraising company? Well, that's, I see we got Michael Antman that popped in just a moment ago. We have nothing is worse than a band room full of old chocolate. And then here's Mike Antman. Again, this is my buddy. Greetings from the Sunshine State. Mike, thanks for hopping on. I love that you jumped on to the webinar just now. And Mike would know, Mike is a director at Freedom High School in Orlando, Florida. And these are some of the great comments that Mike just threw up. Welcome, Mike. So glad that you were on the webinar tonight. Means a lot, buddy. I got distracted. Should you hire a fundraising company? Now, Mike could actually chime in here. Mike is one of my biggest advocates, and he supports me so much. And here's what Mike says about me, and he wouldn't be shy to say this. He calls me his fundraising agent. Just like you have an insurance agent that you know you can call this guy and add your car to the policy, take a car off of the policy, all the things that your good agent does for you, looks out for you as far as rate. That's what Mike calls me. He calls me his fundraising agent. I wake up thinking about fundraising. I'm doing the work to research what's available in the market. And yeah, there's Mike saying, yes, Charlie is my fundraising agent. I love it. Mike, thank you. It depends, though. The real currency that we're living in is not a currency of dollars raised, but of time spent. If I can help you not miss tucking your kids in, if I can help you not miss going to the gym or just going home or maybe having more time with your partner. The first year I did my ship to school fundraiser as a teacher was 2002. We accidentally sold $30,000 worth of cookie dough with a tiny band in Orange Park, Florida. And it felt like 3 days to count all that money. And I wasn't married actually at the time. I was still engaged and I didn't have children, but that doesn't make it okay for the band director to almost sleep in the band room because they're worried about the fundraiser. And here's what Mike said: I don't worry about fundraising. Charlie takes the weight off my shoulders. It's if fundraising is a burden, then I can carry that burden for the teacher. Now, and I'm not just a salesperson that got into fundraising. I happen to be a former band director. I often joke, a recovering band director. Teacher stress was quite honestly one of the reasons that I stepped away. But how much time will it take you to do all of the things? And I don't think it's time to build a donation button that takes time. I think the time you might need to spend on Excel or on spreadsheets or on Google Sheets to figure out which child earned what, or if there's not a way to even know that, it can be very painful, or which products go where. Mike has done a poinsettia sale with me. Mike's done a Christmas tree sale with me. In my software, my understanding of Excel and able to make these reports for him so that he is not on Excel making reports. He is either with the family or working on the program. So successful fundraising happens because of a process, not the price, not the product. In the world of fundraising right now, there are some options that are in the market that are marketed at 0% fees or 100% profit. And I actually do have a way to offer 100% profit, just if that's something that's super important. But what you pay does not mean it's going to help what you raise. I have a group that recently went to a 0% fee platform. They raised $12,000 with me last school year, and they raised $850 this year. So they went down by like 1,400% on a free platform. So I'm not sure how free that ended up being for them. But have a clear goal, prepare the students with a supporters list, recognize students for their attitude and their activity, know that asking is the key, and making the process easy for students to ask. I could show a few tools that I made the other day to make asking easy. And let me just show you these. This will reveal to you like what I was working on. Let's just pull it up this way and get back to. So these are some images that I put together the other day for a local fundraiser in Florida. And we worked on focusing on how many days in a row could we get them asking. And so we made like these little badges. We call them like asking badges. And we were rewarding people for raising $100 an hour or $250 an hour or $350 an hour or $500 an hour. Or is there anybody in the program that raised $1,000 an hour? And here's another little shot from Mike. You get what you pay for. And then recognizing your MVP asker, the kids who are asking like crazy, because those are the kids that are going to help you reach your fundraising goal in the program. I had another little slide. This was an approach of getting away from how much did we raise and shifting to how many people have you asked, and telling students that the baby behavior that we need them to focus on is how many people did you ask today? Did you ask 3 today? If you ask 3 every day, you'll get to your fundraising goal. I just really believe that asking is more important than the product. Guys, I think that we are about at the end of the slides. Let me jump back over. Okay, just hopping in. I do offer some apparel solutions. We can offer apparel in a couple different ways. It seems that maybe we are all good there. So apparel, and that's about the end of the things I had prepared. Apparel, I can take care of a bulk order. I can support you on a 2-week pop-up store. I can also support you on a year-round store. On the apparel, I do use a platform called Chipley right now. I also have the ability to do apparel through InstaRaise, but just to be able to show you a little example of one of these stores. Let's see if I can pull one up fairly quickly. So here we come. Thanks for sticking around. Those of you that are in here for the long haul. If you'll, I'll get my email up. In fact, I could probably have my email start to scroll, and we can have you send me a note so that we could get you a bag of coffee in the mail. So let's see if I have my email handy. Let me just put it on a banner up here. I'll just add a quick banner that has my email on it. So we're going to do charlie@floridafundraiser.com. And if you want to shoot me a note, I can get you some coffee in the UPS. Just make sure I get your mailing address, and I can get you a box. I have a sample box that I can send you that has all of my products in a catalog inside, and I can get this to you in the UPS together. Now, getting back to this little apparel store, we're able to put together these little packs for apparel where your students can have an assigned pack. So this is a pack for a band member where they have a t-shirt, a backpack, and their Igloo water bottle. And then after the pack, we also have the same products available, but they're not a part of a pack. This is a very, very kind of simple version of a store that we can make for a group. I have stores that are more complicated. For example, I'll use, let's grab one real quick. I'll grab this one that's for Mr. Ammon's workshop that we were just kind of talking with. So this is another version of a store that demonstrates products that could be more of a professional setting. Maybe it's a organization or a faculty apparel. And this is a workshop hosted in Titusville, Florida. And I have professional garments, button-down shirts, cold weather garments. All of these things can be available. These can be shipped to school. These can also be shipped to home. We can help you have quite a crafted store. I also do an apparel store for the Florida Band Masters Association. So this is a page for a professional organization for band directors in Florida. So these are a lot of professional wear of different styles, and these all have the Florida Band Masters Association logo on them. There's a band program here in Florida that I did a store for, and we did it just before the holidays. This high school is called Gaither High School. And so if I jump over to Gaither High School, we did some more cold weather items. We had some jackets. These were quarter zips with students' names on them. We had some pajama pants. And then we even had some accessories, Christmas ornaments, water bottles. And these all were shipped out in time to arrive at the families' houses for Christmas. So those are all great options for you there. And those are really the two lanes that I'm in. I do have access and looking for folks who need Igloo water bottles. I have ordered 1,600 or so Igloo water bottles here recently, and would love if there are directors or parents that are a part of this call that might benefit by having Igloo water bottles. Let's share that real quick. This is my share of the Igloo water bottles. And we're just going to share this whole screen. Great. So if you'd like Igloo water bottles for your program, let me know. It'd be great if you were in Florida. If you're not in Florida, we can figure something out. I was on the phone with Igloo yesterday, trying to come up with some solutions on how to help directors get these coolers. And maybe what we'll close with, just because of time, I'll close with my Igloo cooler jingle that AI helped me compose. Been working to learn a little bit more about AI. So let me just go to my Igloo jingle, and we can kind of let that play us out. Let's see. Guys, thanks for hopping on for the call today. I apologize for jumping on a few minutes late. Thanks for those that were here or hopped on. It was fun to have the comments. That was very cool. So if you have comments, if you'd like to make comments while we have this short video play, let's see if this will work. Hopefully audio is connected. I think that it is. And we're going to let this play us out here as we head out. It's buffering again. Hopefully it won't buffer for too long.
Summer Bootcamp's coming, and you know
So go ahead and leave me a
you need
comment.
water cooler, 'cause it's just a
Thanks for the
lot.
comment, Sharon.
Half-gallon is just for you, and it comes in colors like charcoal, pink and blue. You know it's hot, you'll need a water cooler, 'cause it's just a lot. The Igloo half-gallon is just for you, and it comes in colors like charcoal, pink and blue. Aquamarine and orange and acorn green, red and bright green and lots in between. It's the Igloo half-gallon cooler you need. It'll keep you hydrated and keep you in the lead. Igloo coolers, just $10. Get them now. You're in luck. Gotta get your order in by June 1, and it'll be here before band camp starts.
By the way, you can use this platform that I'm streaming from.
Just fill out the order form and you're all set. We'll deliver your cooler in mid-July, I bet. Then when you go to band camp, you won't die of thirst. The Igloo half-gallon cooler
Mike
comes in
said,
first.
thanks, Charlie, for making such an important aspect of my job
Red and bright
something I
green
didn't
and
need to
lots
worry
in
about.
between. It's the
Mike, it's my
Igloo
pleasure
half-gallon
to take this thing
cooler
off
you
your plate.
need.
Oh,
It'll
you
keep
can't
you
get it off.
hydrated
Okay,
and
good to
keep
know.
you in the lead. Igloo coolers, just $10. Get them now. You're in luck. Gotta get your order in by June 1, and it'll be here before band camp starts.
All right. Maybe the audio will come back on to the mic. Guys, thanks so much. Means a lot that you guys would spend your Tuesday evening with me. It's very cool. Sharon, thanks for the compliment. Thanks for your time more than anything, Sharon. I don't think we've met. Hope you'll send me an email so that we can get to know each other. If this was valuable to you, please help by letting somebody know that Charlie over in Florida is working hard to try to create solutions for fundraising. Awesome. Thank you. It must have been that audio from the video. You probably didn't want to hear me anyway. Guys, we're going to go ahead and head out. I'm going to go spend the rest of the evening with the Rankins. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Sharon. Now there's no sound. Okay, so that's saying it's a good time for me to sign off. Signing off. I'm just going to type that here, signing off. And there we go.